Patrick, I want to ask you about something from Official Declaration 2.
Sure.
I'm going to read it to you, and then I'll ask you a follow-up question. We have pleaded long and earnestly in behalf of these, our faithful brethren, spending many hours in the upper room of the temple, supplicating the Lord for divine guidance. Knowing that God values all of his children equally, why did they have to plead for a long time for this answer?
It's a great question. I think a lot of people have had that question, both then and now. And to some degree, some people answer this question with a lot of speculation about the history or about God's timing or about God's will. I think that's not always very productive. But what we do know is that this teaching had become so firmly entrenched within the church, beginning in 1852, when Brigham Young said that men of African descent would no longer be ordained to the priesthood. They had been beforehand. That's really important to understand, that there had been a number of African Americans who had been ordained to the priesthood prior to 1852, but it had been decades without. And so by the time we get to the middle of the 20th century, that's kind of out of people's memory. And they had come up with various explanations as to why that was the case and so forth. And so there was this sense that this developed in the 1950s with President David O. McKay. He said that we really need a revelation in order to change this. Even though it hadn't necessarily come by revelation to Brigham Young, President McKay said we need a revelation. And it took time among the senior leaders of the church, among the membership of the church, which was overwhelmingly white. It took a prophet. It took President Kimball, who was willing to spend all that time and that investment, that emotional and spiritual energy his wife talks about he would just disappear at night. He'd get home from work and then he would go to the temple after dinner and just spend hours and hours just pleading and wrestling with the Lord. It took a prophet who was willing to do that.